Welcome to the Breaking Burnout for Nurses podcast. I'm so happy you're here with me today. Today I have Maureen Metzger. She's a nurse coach and a CNE provider. First of all, she's going to share her story about being fired after 40 years of being a nurse. So welcome, Maureen. Share this alarming story. As soon as I saw that, fired after 40 years, oh my gosh, we have to hear this story and how you dealt with what you thought of it and how you dealt with it. And now that you're a successful nurse coach and quite a few other things, actually. So welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm delighted to be here, Bonnie. Really excited to come. And I think there's, power in sharing our stories. And one of the things I've learned in sharing my story is I am by far not the only nurse who has had some kind of unanticipated and unwanted disruption in their career, which has led them to sort of pause and reconsider how to move forward. And so I like to think of my story as one of thriving, not of victimhood, but it was certainly quite a shock to me because I was one of the lucky ones. So it isn't that I didn't know that burnout and toxic work environment and other things didn't exist, nurses eating their young, heard about those things, had, sort of tangentially witnessed those things, but really didn't experience that at all, really, in my career. I was very fortunate to early on discover I had a passion for working with people in the advanced stages of chronic illness conditions, mostly cancer. Those were my people. I loved it. I worked on very productive, high-functioning teams, felt very well supported as I transitioned into practice. So all of that was amazing. And I had mentors all along. And then after about 25 years, I had an opportunity to be fully funded to get my master's and then my PhD, and then to do a postdoc fellowship. And so I had that sort of second career within nursing, transitioning out of clinical practice into research and then into academia. And I loved my academic role. And I thought, wow, this is how I'm going to sail out the rest of my career. I thought I'm going to be working until I'm 80 because I just love this, love the teaching, love the research. It was really kind of amazing. I describe myself as being on fire in a good way, full of passion, using all my gifts, and just loved every aspect of my job. And so, like many, during COVID, it was a major disruption. So all of our research moved completely out of the clinical arena, couldn't even go into the clinical arena. So everything was put on pause. We abruptly had to put all of our classes, I taught all face-to-face, had never taught online, and had to quickly, do that. And so it was kind of an all hands on deck experience. And I felt as someone who, my kids were grown, they were out of the house. I'd been a nurse for a long time. I looked at some of my colleagues caring for young children who were at home, navigating older adult parents, maybe 6 spouses, all kinds of things. And I thought, like, well, I'm lucky. I don't have any of that. And so I can do more, I can show up more. And so I found I was very surprised that we had a change in leadership. And with that change came a refocus, a change in priorities. And one of the decisions they made, I'm not sure why, is that certain people needed to be forced out. And
Wow.
and we all happened to, almost all of us, not all, but almost all of us were well north of 55, in our late 50s or about 60. And so that was really kind of shocking. And initially, for me, it brought on a full-on existential crisis.
I'm sure it did.
I did not see it coming. And I really felt like I don't know how to be in the world if I'm not a nurse. I couldn't see a path forward. And I thought, if I'm not nursing, if I'm not teaching, if I'm not caring, if I'm not doing research, all the very best parts of me are going to be lost. They're going to be unexpressed. And that was really led to first a deep grieving, like that sort of disbelief, like I cannot believe with all my excellent evaluations, my funding, I couldn't believe that I was in this situation.
Yes, it had I heard that you had been fired after 40 years of nursing. The first thing I thought of, and I did mention this to you about the stages of grief. I mean, it was
Yes.
like,
Yes.
actually grieving for
Yeah.
this wonderful career that you had had up to that point. And now what was the question?
Yeah,
So it was
exactly.
like, what are the stages? It's like denial, anger. Did you feel angry at any
Well, you
point?
know what? At first, once I got over that disbelief, I was
Yes.
quite I was quite angry, but I was also passionate about. I was very involved in the DEI mission at our school, like really trying to, very involved in inclusivity. I was doing research in belongingness, cultivating belongingness, and this sort of true inclusivity. That was one of the reasons I was let go, as that was no longer considered something important
Oh
to the
gosh.
people, and they didn't deem that to be research that they wanted me to be doing. Also doing research with people at or near end of life, low tech interventions, also considered something not great. And at 60, they felt like my funding runway was too short, which is code for you're too old
Oh,
to keep bringing in grant money. And so when I realized that, that did make me angry, not just on my own behalf, but for all of my students, especially my students from historically underrepresented groups in nursing. My research team was very diverse, and they were looking at me and thinking, well, if this can happen to you with your experience and
mhm.
everything, like, what does that mean for us? And so they and my family and my close colleagues were like, you're going to fight this, right? You got to stand up for yourself. And
Mhm.
so I use that sort of anger and disbelief as fueling me to like, okay, I really have to hit this head on. So I filed an appeal. I went through all the processes, right? And I did that bargaining, not only with my employer, like just give me my job back.
Yes,
Just let
right.
me do what I love doing. Give me my job back, and all will be well. We can let bygones be bygones. I'll keep doing it, and also sort of silently, to myself with, Gus, God, universe, source, are saying like, just let me continue being a nurse. Let me get my job back, and I'll just continue my work. And then you kind of move into the acceptance phase that okay, after spending a lot of money, which came right out of my retirement savings, $160,000 on legal fees,
Oh, wow.
and the campaign of bullying and harassment that came really led to sort of
Wow.
that burnout, right? That we talk about. I was completely
Yes.
depleted, lost a tremendous amount of weight, wasn't sleeping, was so stressed out about the whole thing that I just really had to accept this is not your path forward. This is not your path forward. So you have to take this desire to serve, because I feel like that's my life purpose, and you got to find another way to express it. And then that
Wow.
led me on this sort of journey of figuring out what does this next chapter look like?
Yes. So now what, right? You're
Now what?
thinking, now what?
Exactly. And that level of burnout, to me, I learned to initially I saw it as something to like, whoa, backpedal, move away from. And then I realized, you know what? This is actually like a signpost. This is the universe way, this feeling of burnout, that complete depletion, that spiritual angst, was actually a very strong indication to me that I needed to get back in the driver's seat of my life and figure out how to move forward. And so for anyone out there who's experiencing that burnout, try not to look at it as a personal failure. It isn't. And look at it as an indication that you really want to pause and think about, is this the best way for me to move forward? And if it isn't, what next?
Yes. And so you are now a nurse coach. And how did you get to that position? What
Well,
made you decide to do that?
it felt very serendipitous. And so I was exploring all these different things. So one of the first things I did was, I call it getting back in alignment. I figured out, what are my gifts? What are my strengths? What did I love about each aspect of the jobs that I've had in the clinical setting, research, teaching? What did I love about all that? And then how can I leverage that experience into something else? And so I didn't know how to do that. And so I actually sought the resources of a coach. So, and trying to help figure that out. And then I was reading about coaching and I thought, oh, geez, it's a lot like nursing. You kind of help. It's the coaching process very similar to the nursing process. You help people assess their lives. You help them diagnose their pain points. You help them develop a treatment plan, right? A plan for moving forward. You help them evaluate their plans and pivot, and change course as they need to. So I'm like, wow, that sounds a lot like nursing. And so as I was becoming a coach and receiving coaching services, something just happened where I thought, you know what? This experience of working through coaching and being coached has been such a game changer for me, literally changed my life. And the trajectory, I thought, this is what I want to do for other people. I want to take other people who are passionate, who are purpose driven, who are service oriented, probably in the healthcare space, because that's my people, that's me. And I really want to walk alongside them and help them to get on the other side and step into what is waiting for them. And so that experience of being coached and having it be such a powerful experience for me, really, that did it for me. And I thought, I want to be certified. I want to do this. And the beauty of it is I was like, after 40 years of working for large organizations and institutions, this is something I don't need. I don't need to have my job back. I don't need to get a job with a big organization. I can be like a one-woman show. I can start my own business. I can learn how to do that. Because let's face it, nurses, we have the skill set to do anything we set our minds to do.
So many things. Yes.
So many things. So many things.
And this, Maureen, as I listen to your story, it sounds like such a natural progression for you. And a lot of times when we get hit with the door slammed in our face like that, you take a few moments of being angry and bargaining and, resentment and all those things. But when you step back like you did, you realize there are so many doors opening, like it's a whole new world and maybe even better than what you thought you had before. So it sounds like you've really stepped up and have come into your new your new Maureen Metzger.
Yes, sort of the next chapter. It doesn't look anything like if you had told me, 5-6 years ago, I would have been like, no, this is, I'm in my place, I'm with my people, and this is it for me. But that's the beauty of it. Even until I'm going to be 64 this year, and I'm invigorated by this next chapter, and I'm loving what I do. I like getting out of bed in the morning. I look forward to my day, and so I think I want that for all of my nursing colleagues. Yay. I want everyone to have that kind of joy and passion in their lives, doing deeply meaningful work and having your career fit into your life, not the other way around. I think so many nurses, that's why they get burnt out, right? Because they're trying to fit their life
thank you,
around
Maureen.
Their career.
Thank you, Maureen, for being here. And I'm sure there are a lot of nurses who are interested in getting coaching from you. So how would they get a hold of you?
Well, there's many ways to get a hold of me. So I have a website, metzgercoaching.com. I also have an email.
And spell that for me.
METZGER,
coaching.
Yep. .com. So that's my website, but I also am all over LinkedIn. I am a frequent content creator there. So you can always DM me, direct message me on LinkedIn. And I also have an email, maureen@metzgercoaching.com. So there are many ways that people can get in touch with me. Most people seem to reach out to me via LinkedIn first. That's kind of a low-hanging fruit way to do it, right? You can look at what I write, you can look at my profile, you can see who else I'm connected with, and figure out if that's, if you'd like to have a conversation with me. So all kinds of ways for people to contact me.
Well, perfect. So thank you so much for being on my show. And actually, we're going to have you back because
Wonderful.
I want you to talk a little bit more in depth about your coaching, and so we'll have you back again. So everybody, make sure and come back on Mondays at 10 a.m. Pacific time, and because we are breaking burnout here. Bye. Thank you, Maureen.
Thank you.